Yeah, so this is a video about the greatest edition of D&D that was ever made, um, second edition. Um, Boo! Yeah, fuck you. Second edition, second edition was great. It's the edition I grew up with. I started a little bit later than some of you older nerds. I'm 48. I started playing when I was 16, but some of you guys are a little bit more ancient than I am, and you were playing first edition. I played a mixture of second edition and first edition, but these two books were the books that I was introduced with, second edition. And I went back and I played, we played a mix, as I said, and I went back and played second edition, first edition, and we intermingled the rules. So I'm well versed with first edition. I read all the books obviously 100,000 times, and I'll always go back to second edition, not just for nostalgic reasons, but because it's just a better edition. These aren't my originals, by the way. The first editions are, but the second editions I lent to a friend and never saw them again. So fuck that guy. But that's just the way it goes. But yeah, there's so much that's good about starting with the beautiful, easily art of the young dragon that's been caught here. With this really proud looking bloke. Look at him. Awesome. Yeah, fourth level, fifth level party, I imagine. But it was just a beautiful edition to play, and even to this day, you've got your fifth edition, but nothing will beat, and your third and your fourth and all that sort of stuff, but nothing will beat. I'm not familiar with third. I know it's very bloated with all the feats and stuff, and that makes me uninterested in it. And that's enough for me to sort of know what it's about. But the second edition didn't have all that. But what it did have was tables and lots of cool stuff. The way it described things, the way it laid stuff out. This is mainly a video for people who've never seen second edition and want to just have a quick glance through it and see what it was about. Okay, so we had tables. We had things like the strength table with 1800 strength. You had to roll, if you were a fighter, you got to roll on this extra table. You had to roll percentile to see how strong you were. If you got 18, you might have been, but it had this really cool mechanic where, see down here, it tells you what a hill giant is 19 strength, right? Any human or demi-human could never get to 19 strength. That was the realm of monsters. You had to get a serious wish ability to get up to 19. Okay, so 18 was considered like Hercules almost. But then there was this realm within that was only fighters could get, and then they would get all these extra bonuses to hit and damage. And then you could see there was this disparity between the levels. Like, it was only at 18 it was +1 and +2 to hit, really low, and then 19 was +3 +7. But then it had this range in between that only fighters of 18 strength could get. So it really cut off humans or demi-humans or characters for that matter, and then monsters, which were at this sort of level of ability. And it created this contrast, which I think is great. But moving right along, we have these gorgeous pictures along the way. Most of them were, well, there's lots of various artists in here that did certain things, but wisdom, for instance, it showed you what you were immune to. If you had a wisdom of 19, you were immune to these spells. You were just immune to them. If you're an intelligence, a high level intelligence, you were immune to illusions. Okay, certain levels of illusions. Charisma, how many henchmen you could get, reaction adjustments, all standard first edition, second edition fare, which is sad that all that stuff has disappeared these days. We had these really awesome tables that you'd roll up. When I was fascinated with this when I first started playing, you'd roll for your height and your weight and your age, and then it might seem ridiculous now, but it really added flavor. And you didn't need to roll a background out for your character. Your background was developed from your stats and this stuff, and that was it. And then it was your background, and your background was I was a dwarf from a clan, and I'm this big, and I'm this tall, and that was what was important. Not like how your parents got killed by some guy and you've got to get vengeance, and you're edgelord, fucking whatever. None of that shit mattered. It wasn't even thought about that much. Well, not in my circles anyway. And then we got followers, fighters, followers, things like that. Fighters would have followers, and then they would have certain abilities. Paladins at certain levels, rangers, schools of magic. Once again, just flicking through these, just to sort of give you an overall idea of what second edition was like if you've never seen it before. Modifiers for races. I still use the word races. Fuck you. Dwarf, elf, gnome, halfling, half elf. Different modifiers for different thieving abilities, different modifiers for different dex adjustments for your pickpockets. No, depending on the armor that you were wearing. The followers that a thief would get, backstab multipliers. You had to make certain stats just to be able to play a certain class, and that was cool. There was none of this point buy shit. You just played the class if you rolled the appropriate stats. That was the whole point of rolling stats. It made certain classes rare, so that you rolled really well. You were able to roll a really cool character. You'd be like, fuck man, I can roll I've got good enough stats to roll a paladin, to play a paladin. Sorry, I've had a few to drink. Multi-classing, dual classing. They were two different things, multi-classing and dual classing. We won't go into it. Alignment, okay, that's all self-explanatory. Alignment, proficiency slots. So we had proficiencies, and then we had non-weapon proficiencies, and this was the start of the skill system. And it was all very sort of controversial even at the time. There were some arguments that were like, do you know the skill in real life? Well, then you know how to do it. That was the base understanding of certain skills. If you don't know how to do it, you don't know how to do it. But yeah, you had these different things. So rogues had proficiencies, warriors had proficiencies, general proficiencies anyone could draw from. I play OSE, and I'm thinking about bringing this system back into OSE. It's a very cool, tight little system for skills, just to add something in. So if you're playing any of these classes, you can use those skills, or you can draw from them as non-weapon proficiencies. And here's descriptions of proficiencies, going on about it. Equipment lists, really cool equipment lists went on. We had the old school weapons tables where they had damage, small and large, and then you had different damage. There's reasons for that. Everybody balks at it, but there are reasons. If you think it out, you'll understand what they are. I won't go into it, but it depends on range and size and thickness of skin and the distance between the large creature and the small creature, and how effective that weapon would be within those different parameters. More cool art. Armor. Encumbrance, which is sadly gets laughed at, which I think is adds an element to the game which makes it more immersive. Modified movement rates based upon encumbrance. Anything in blue is an optional rule. Okay, so we had schools of magic, illusions, we had whole sections on that, casting spells. Okay, so we're moving on to Thaco. Oh yeah, sorry, I say Thaco. That's the way I learned it, Thaco. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato, fuck you, whatever. Modifiers for slashing, piercing, bludgeoning versus the different weapons. That was a simplified system compared to the old Gygaxian system. That was a simplified version, which I thought was actually more easy to use. A lot of people didn't use it. Again, it's an optional rule. What you can do in one round. Okay, here we go. Make an attack, cast one spell, drink a potion. See that right there? What you can do in one round, drink a potion. None of this, I can do it on my bonus action. It was one round and that was it. All right, these are the things you could do. That was it. Okay, it was simple. And then they had these really cool little descriptions of Harry. You know, the DM notes that the orcs are doing something and whatever. Harry playing Wrath the orc who hates orcs. Orcs charge, Anne. Wait, what? I don't know. Can I use my fireball? Wrath is charging forward. Quick, what are you doing? Says the DM. To the half-elf. Cast a spell. Can I fire my bow? Sure, he's short. Okay, I'll shoot at orcs. You know, which orc are you shooting at? None of this, I'm going to do specific stuff. I'm going to shoot at orcs. That's all you do. You don't ask the DM, what can I do? Yada, yada. Well, she does it just there, but you just say, I'll shoot at orcs. And tell me what such and such is doing, or she'll lose the round trying to make up her mind. Got it, acid arrow, quick. Fine, Harry, Wrath is in front, roll for initiative. And that was easy. I really took that on board. When I was young, I would read this and I would take that to heart, that this is how you would play the game with these descriptions, you know, of how to play. There was a table for hand-to-hand combat. Let's have a look. What else we got here? Undead, saving throws, all standard fare, magical healing, treasure types, dividing and storing treasure, the surprise roll, which sadly has disappeared from D&D these days. Here we have got a shot of Princess Leia. If that's not Princess Leia, I don't know who it is. I always saw it and went, yeah, that's Princess Leia. Who are you kidding? A bunch of nerds here, so this is the sort of stuff we draw, don't we? Encounter options, encounter distance. Back when encounters mattered, and back when hirelings and henchmen and followers mattered. You know, it's all BX fare, it's all standard D&D fare. Bashing down doors, visibility ranges, all these cool tables. Tables are cool. People who don't like tables are strange. I don't understand people who don't like tables. Tables are cool. Okay, rates of climbing. There's a whole section on climbing, about 3 pages on climbing. Getting down, just a whole section on how to get down. Climbing tools. You know, for example, Wrath is 15 foot above his position. Suddenly he slips. He falls 15 feet, plus another 15 feet. And does this much damage. And then we get on to spells. Okay, so that's all standard fare for, you know, most games, but it was all about the tables. DMG. If you don't read your DMG and you're a DM, I question the ability that you have to DM, because the DMG is full of beautiful things. Back then, method one, 3d6 in order, was the standard for second edition. First edition was 46, drop the lowest, was first. But they went back to 3d6. They went back to it for some reason. Character backgrounds, multiple characters. It was all very simple. There was none of this, like, you know, 2-page background. If you want to do 2-page backgrounds, I'm not one of these people who ridicules you, and well, I do, but I'm like, that's fine, man, but you're still going to cop an arrow to the face and die. So best to, like, develop your character as you go. Undead tables, slow advancement rules. So you might have a rule here for slow advancement. This allows short-lived humans to advance more quickly. Exceeding level limits. 0 level characters. Now, there's this whole argument online about 0 level characters. Well, here it is right here. Okay, the great mass of humanity, elven kind, the dwarven clans, and halflings are 0 level. They can gain in wisdom and skill, but they do not earn experience points for their activities. Okay, the common folk form the backbone of every fantasy world, yada yada. For the vast majority of 0 level NPCs you create in your game, all you need to know is name, personality, and occupation. When the characters deal with the blacksmith and the innkeeper, there's no need to create ability scores, Thaco, to hit adjustments, armor class, yada yada. Okay? This idea that first level characters are just I think it was, what was it? Sorry, names elude me. Stay Puffed, Marshmallow Man, and Crossface were talking about this. They had a thing on it, and there was a big argument about it online on Twitter just last week. And they were talking, and people were like, no, these first level characters have just picked up a sword. And it's like, no, they're not. They're first level fighters are like experienced fighters. And it says it right here, way back in second edition, what a 0 level character is. All right, it says it right here. Okay, they are manual labourers, soldiers, craftsmen, scholars, invalids, children, youth, okay? And then they have a die range for their hit points. So all these arguments, hey, pick up a book, just have a little bit of a read. That's all you got to do. We don't have to argue about these things. You might argue about it in a certain game, that's fine, but they're the new game rules. But what they are is what they are, and if we're playing old school, we've already got rules for it, okay? Thieves, beginning character levels, above 20th level, defining high level, changing campaign styles. Lots of cool stuff, okay? The whole section on creating a new character class. Okay, you could just create a new character class. We did this once, and they always end up being like, you have to calculate how much XP they earn. Here it is down here, base XP, and it really blows out. So they geared it in such a way that like you'd have to earn like 5,000 XP just to get to second level, and they just weren't worth it. They weren't worth it. So they made it in such a way that like you'd want to stick to the basic character classes, and if you made something, it would be, yeah, you pick and choose from your abilities and stuff like that. Okay, alignments. People who don't like alignments are fools. One of the coolest pictures, I believe that was even used in the BX game as well. That's the symbol for the blessed spell, I believe. I don't know, it's just a cool picture. That's an easily right there. As you can see, easily written down the side there, classic easily. There we go, we got an orc, we got a pig-faced orc. Detecting alignment. There we go, spot the brownies, or pixies. No, they're brownies. As far as I'm concerned, they're brownies. Brownies, small little creatures. Weapon fishies, another really cool piece of art that I love. I used to stare at that picture all the time. There was something about it. It was like you've entered that room and there's just this apothecary. Is it apothecary? Is that what you say? A whole bunch of like test tubes and all sorts of stuff. And you just know that it's a dangerous spot. And the mage, you can see the mage is just salivating like what he's going to find. And the fighter's like, be on guard, you know. These cool little prints that they had back then. You notice everything, there was no colour except for a few splash pages here and there, and that's the way I like it. If you're ever making a game and it doesn't look in this, it's not in this design, I'm not going to be interested. I'm 1 in a million, so hey, you're going to lose like one person there. But expenses, things for horses, you got horse quality, horse traits, that's cool. Nag, broken down, it won't gallop, choose fences, bites, rears headstrong, all that sort of shit. That was cool. So item saving throws. You know, you fell down a well, and now we're going to make some item saving throws for the stuff you're wearing because you took a pretty bad tumble. Or just individual items. You might say, hey, I'm going to throw my sword at this place, whatever, you know, individual, you know, unusual metal armors. I'm just pointing out lots of cool tables here. Lots of really cool tables. I don't know who did that picture. It's pretty cool. I believe the lady posed for that picture. There's a picture online of her posing for it. I don't think it's an easily. It doesn't look like easily to me. I can't quite remember. Some of you guys out there are just like outrageously familiar with these things. I'm not. That looks like a, you know, whatever. Spells. Here we go. Spell book capacities. So we had books. We had different things. We had traveling spell books. We had spell book. How many pages in a spell book? A whole section on it. Spellbook preparation, all sizes and shapes, like a whole 2 sections on just spellbooks. Suggesting new spells, analysing spells, determining research time, solving the problems, setting a spell's level. So this is if you wanted to create a new spell. You could create a new spell and it had rules for it. Cost of spell research, adding a new spell to the book. Okay. Here we go, researching extra wizard spells. Anything in blue, again, is an optional rule. The importance of experience, okay? So a whole lot of sections on experience. Okay, so adding experience, creature experience, you could create monsters and give them different experience values. they had rules for it. Individual class awards, depending on the class, you could give them individual XP awards for certain things. A lot of people love that stuff. Training, rate of advancement, classic. That's just gorgeous, isn't it? I'm almost 100% certain that's easily, even though I can't see an insignia anywhere. Again, once again, like, see, one or two of these pages throughout a book, that makes an RPG for me. Right, these beautiful pages which don't steal away my attention. But then you get these beautiful full color pages, you know, intermittently placed throughout the books. Beautiful style. This is the way you should be creating your games, in my opinion. Thaco. Yeah, I said Thaco. Thaco. I say Thaco because that's the way we learned it. Doesn't matter. If you disagree, you are wrong. Figuring the 2-hit number. We had modifiers for weapons. We've got modifiers to initiative tables, flanking, a whole section on group initiative, individual initiative, different styles of initiative, weapon speed and initiative, optional rules. Okay, so you could change the weapon speed based upon the speed factor of the weapon. Okay, so weapon length, that would really only matter if you were in like certain size, like dungeons that was small. You couldn't be carrying a pike in there or use it effectively, so you might get a penalty to hit with it. Unless you were just thrusting with it down the corridor, you might get, you know, things like that. Pole arms, frontage, shields and weapons, movement in combat. Okay. What else we got in here? Critical hit systems, critical fumbles, parrying. Okay, so there was rules for all that, optional rules. Mind you, in blue is optional. You don't have to use it. Okay, overbearing, and then we had these like this cool little things, scatter diagram. If you threw something, right, you'd have to roll a D12, a D10. Was it a D10 or a D12? It was a D10. Yes, you'd roll a D10, and if you failed to throw, you'd have to roll this D10 to find out where it's scattered. Very much like Warhammer. Warhammer uses a situation like this. And it might go one of all different ways. It might come back at you. If you roll a 1, it comes back, you know, things like that. So scatter tables are cool. Firing into melee, depending on the size of the creature, you might have different sizes creatures that get different values, and you pick the appropriate die and you roll to see if somebody gets hit if you fire into melee. Melee, again, I pronounce everything wrong. That's because I'm Australian. Melee, melee, I don't care. Thaco, I don't care. Character saving throws, special defenses. What other cool stuff in here? Turning undead, morale, sadly missing from current games. Current games suck because they don't have morale. If you don't have morale in your game, it sucks. Morale is a mechanic that takes away the DM's ability to just control combat and say, you know what, they don't run away, or they do run away. And yeah, you might argue that that's what the DM's for, but I don't trust DMs. I don't expect my players to trust me. I like to roll on these tables so that I can take, if the creatures decide that they're going to attack, that's not my fault. They can't whinge at me because that's what the creatures did. And depending on how brave, or, you know, like morale on undead is like through the roof. They just don't run away because they're undead. But orcs, hey, they run away on a 6. You roll 2d6, and if you get less, if you get greater than the number, they run away. It's a cool mechanic, and it should have been kept. And the fact they took that out of 5e says a lot to me. It says a lot about the game style and the inward focus that the game style's taken. It's all about the characters now. It's all about their feats, and it's all about themselves, and it's not about the world, and it's not about the function of things. And I really detest that. Hovering on Death's Door. I still play 5e though. I'm bashing it, but you know, it's like junk food. 5e is like junk food. It's the McDonald's of I've said that before. It's the McDonald's of games, of D&D games. This is more of an Italian restaurant. Magical healing, specific injuries, Lots of cool stuff. Structural saving throws. You get saving throws for thick wood, thin wood, all that sort of stuff. Underwater combat, movement, combat procedure, breath weapons, climbing and diving. Okay, so you got aerial combat. And there's another really cool thing for where did I see it? I can't remember where I saw it, but oh, here it is. It's right here. I was looking for it everywhere. Different flying creatures had different classes of maneuverability: Class B, Class C, Class D, Class E. And depending on this was the tournament rule, but depending on their ability, we used to use these rules. They were cool. Class E was a large, clumsy dragon that could turn. It would take so many rounds to get around and turn around to come back and swoop on the party. If it was Class A, it was just flying around and just taking you out. So we had these classes on these, and then we'd have this combat procedure, missile fire, air to ground combat, all these different cool little rules which made combat just more interesting than the standard we run in and we engage. Who's got the treasure? Who needs the money? Yada yada. Artifacts. We're moving into the encounters, planned encounters. Okay, encounters are cool. I don't know why they've left the game. Should you use random encounters? Yes, you should. The answer is yes. Okay, should you use random encounters? Yes. Yes, you should. If you don't, you're a failure, and you should just stop gaming completely. Tables, more tables, D&D encounters. Yeah, so like listening at doors, DMs and miscellany, spellcasters, mounting. I'm zipping. Oh shit. Oh, I just ripped the page. I'm going too quick. I'm too tired. I'm going through the pages. Magical diseases, lairs, treasure, lots of cool stuff. Lots of cool stuff. But look, that's my little run through on second edition. And if you want to play like a really classic old school style game, and you say, look, you know, this BX game sounds cool, but it's really too basic, or first edition is cool, but it's just all over the place, and third edition, it's just so bloated. It's bloated. It's got all these feats, and second edition is where it's at. Okay, trust me. If you want to play the game of D&D, it's not first edition. It's not fifth. It's second edition. If you disagree, yeah, look, that's fine. But you know, you're missing out. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I'm really tired. I'm going to go to bed now. Say hi to your mum for me.